Well, Sandra, the governor of Utah is sounding off on Denver for sending illegal migrants to Salt Lake City, calling it completely unacceptable. The mayor of Denver telling our affiliate there the city's bought about 2,000 tickets to Salt Lake City over the last year and a half. Let's bring in Republican Congressman Blake Moore. He represents Utah's 1st congressional district, which includes parts of Salt Lake City. Congressman, thanks for being here. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Jackie.
So I want to read to you just a piece from the New York Times because they put out an article on how this is happening. And they tracked one family who ended up in Salt Lake. They say, listen to this quote, when their hotel stay paid for by the city of Denver ran out, the family ended up on another bus. This one headed to Salt Lake City, thought to be a welcoming destination thanks to plentiful jobs and the deep influence of the Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints. So I ask you, where are these migrants getting the idea that Salt Lake is a good destination for them?
Well, they're getting the idea from, disingenuous people that are trying to pan off of what's really going on. It's this horrific immigration policy we've seen from the president and these sanctuary cities that want to pretend like they're being so humane by doing this when in actuality they're putting these poor immigrants in the worst situation possible and keep selling them a bill of goods. They've been sold lies since they engage with the cartels at the border to get them into Texas. Then NGOs are transporting them using dollars that they've either raised or have been provided through some type of federal grant. It's a bit of a shell game. And then these cities want to say, oh, we're the ones that are so humane, we're so helpful, but they don't have room. And then they're sending them to Utah. And that quote is so disrespectful because Utah is such one of the most well-run states in the country. In fact, it is. It's the top of everything when you have from volunteerism to economy. And then to say, oh, they'll be welcoming because they're good people. We are good people, but we run things under the rule of law. And that's why we have such a great welcoming society here. But that's so disingenuous, and it's really frustrating because we don't have the capacity. We're not given dollars. We're not taking federal money to go through these programs to become a sanctuary city, and then to say, oh, just let's send them to Utah. I mean, it's so wrong. But the problem is this horrific policy that we've seen from President Biden's administration.
And to your point, it's hardly the first time we've seen the cartels, take advantage of the benevolent values of people in this country. But the mayor of Denver is seeming to blame Texas, of all places. A spokesperson for his office said to Axios, the vast majority of newcomers arriving in Denver do so on buses chartered from Texas and had no intention of ever coming to Denver. That's why part of our operations include purchasing tickets for newcomers to get to their desired location. A little bit of hesitation there, it seems, to direct the blame back to the administration coming from the city's Democratic mayor.
Sorry to cut you off, but I'm saying the same thing you are. This isn't Texas's fault.
Right.
These mayors and these Democrat mayors from these cities, they need to do the right thing and be honest and say, this is a problem with the Biden administration's policy. The catch and release policy has proven to be a failure. We have to be willing to re-engage in the Remain in Mexico policy and do things that deter cartels from continuing this onslaught of what they're doing to our country, right? And so to put the blame on Texas is absolutely horrible. It's not Texas's fault. They have dealt with so much over these last 3 years. They've taken the brunt of this with other states that are located at the border, and to try to claim that. We need people that can actually call out their own party and say, yeah, President Biden has failed on this particular issue. That's what I want to see from some of these Democratic mayors. I know they believe it. I know that's what they say behind closed doors, but will they actually come out and start criticizing more heavily? New York, if you finally hear them say, look, we thought we could do this, but we just can't take any more. And that's happening in Denver. And now it's becoming a major problem for our state.
To your point, we heard from Maryland's governor about the murder of that mother of five, allegedly at the hands of a migrant, and a real hesitation or a refusal even to point any blame back toward the administration. Democrats unwilling to call themselves out there. But this is a growing problem under this administration. I want to show you the numbers on new proceedings filed in Utah with immigration courts. This is data that's been tracked by Syracuse University. In 2021, there were a little over 3,000 cases. Fast forward to 2023, you're over 21,000. And then through just May of 2024, it's 20,836. And the year is not even out yet. But I want to ask you also, because you had a Democratic senator, Chris Murphy, who said to an outlet recently that, Democrats are the only party that's taking any action on the border. And he's able to say that because he can point to Republicans walking away from that bipartisan deal. And that's going to be a refrain that's going to be repeated all the way up until November. So how do you and your colleagues counter that?
Yeah, it's the same thing. Democrats have a very strong ability to grab onto a talking point and then sort of like run it through an election cycle. It's like saying that tax cuts only benefited the wealthy. Like they live on that particular talking point when middle class and lower income Americans actually gained more and had more opportunities from that. So this is an opportunity where, you could almost see it play out. Like that immigration deal, we have to deal with Remain in Mexico. We have to re-implement that. We have to deal with the catch and release. The bipartisan deal that had started to brew wasn't strong enough on border policy. It addressed some of immigration reform, and that's the only thing that Democrats want to deal with. You have to deal with border security first. That's what will deter the cartels. And so I just reiterate to everybody, we as lawmakers all largely agree that we have to do both of those things, border security and immigration reform based on a merit-based system. But if you just go straight to the immigration reform, which is where too much of the Democrat policy has been pushed towards, without the border security, you're going to continue to exacerbate the problem. So Republicans are standing firm, saying we need these executive orders changed and stronger border policy. We do that, we can definitely engage in some of those,
because of the border security elements.
Other priorities with regards to visa, streamlining visas, dealing with DACA, things like that you can't do it unless you deal with the border first. And that's what our main point has been.
All right. Well, we are out of time. We're going to have to leave it there. Congressman Blakemore, thank you for being here. Hope to have you back again soon.
Thank you for having me.